Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again and welcome to any new viewers. This is To The Point English with Ben. I'm Ben and I'm going to start this video with two big questions. Number one, is grammar important? And number two, do you need to study grammar? Now the first question is very easy to answer. Of course, grammar is important, it's fundamental. The rules, principles and structures of any language's grammar are necessary to be able to communicate ideas and express yourself effectively. I made a video recently explaining why I think it's essential to continue expanding your vocabulary, particularly advanced vocabulary, because vocabulary is extremely important. But grammar is the glue or the cement that holds it all together. So yes, grammar is important. The second question, do you need to study grammar, is not that easy to answer. Now, if you want a simple, quick answer, then it must be no. No, you don't necessarily need to study grammar. And I can say that quite confidently because I could communicate in English long before I studied any grammar. Now, of course, you're thinking, yeah, but you were born and grew up in an English-speaking country. Of course. That's why, that's the reason. In fact, the only grammar I remember being taught at school was the difference between an adjective, a noun and a verb. And the only time I really started studying English grammar was when I decided to become a teacher. And I needed to study the grammar to be able to teach it. But I knew the grammar before then. I was using it correctly long before then. So obviously that proves, right, that you don't need to study grammar. However, it's not that simple, of course, because I imagine most of you watching this video were not born in an English-speaking country and you didn't have that advantage of just being able to learn English in a natural way. So the more nuanced answer to that question, as it is to most questions in life, is it depends. If your objective is not to reach a high level of English and you don't really need English, you just want to communicate at a very basic level, maybe you don't really need to study grammar. If you have lots of time, so you can spend all day, every day, surrounding yourself with English, so just getting lots of input and you pay attention, so you're reading books, you're watching series, you're listening to podcasts, and you're paying attention to the grammar that's used, then perhaps you don't need to actually study grammar, you're just learning it in a more natural manner and you're not really sitting down with a book or a course or in attending classes in order to learn. But having said that, there are many advantages and many benefits to actually studying grammar. Now, if you've watched any of my older videos, you'll know that I love an analogy to help explain ideas or what I'm trying to express. So my analogy for today is learning a musical instrument. So think of learning a musical instrument in a similar way to learning a language, and in particular grammar, of course. Now, what musical instrument can we think about? Oh, well, that's handy. We have a guitar here. So imagine I give a guitar to someone who's never played the guitar before. Maybe they've never touched a guitar before and they need to learn it. So, you know, if they have plenty of time, if they have all the time in the world, then they're going to work it out for themselves in the end. Of course, so maybe they'll just start and they won't be making any pleasant noises, it's all a bit of a racket. But over time they'll start to hit the notes and then they might start to find that there are certain notes that sound good together. Okay, so that's not too bad now. It's not a particularly pleasant melody, it's nothing special. But if someone taught them the scale, so that's how different notes go together, then they're going to save a lot of time trying to work that out for themselves. But then if the student tries to start putting those notes together to make chords, that's going to take even longer because there are so many different variations. And they're not going to sound very nice at first, but one day they may come across the G chord, for example. Fantastic, they've discovered the G chord. But then to learn the A, B, C, D, E, F, it's going to take a long time. Now, this analogy is not a perfect analogy, of course, but I hope you're getting my point that you can learn to play the guitar without knowing the scales and the chords, without taking lessons, without studying how to play the guitar. But it's much quicker and easier if you have some some help, some frameworks, some structures, some patterns to help you do it. And that's the same with language learning. You can learn on your own. You can just learn without actually studying the grammar. But if you have some kind of help, some kind of structures, the principles, the rules, you're going to learn more quickly and more effectively. And that's what I do in my grammar course, for example. You can use exercise books, you can go to classes, but I have a grammar course, an online grammar course, in which I look at a lot of the advanced grammatical concepts which help you. So that's the idea. The grammar exists whether you study it or not, but it helps to study it. Just like chords exist and notes exist on a guitar or piano, whether you study them or not. It's just how you find them and how you use them. Now, it's very important to remember that the objective is not to learn grammar. That's not the objective. The objective is to be able to communicate in English. So to be able to use the grammar to communicate. Much like when you're learning an instrument, learning scales and chords is not the objective. That's not the final objective. The objective is to use the chords and scales to play music. And we learn grammar and vocabulary to be able to communicate in English. So, in conclusion, yes, grammar is important. It's essential. No, you don't necessarily need to study it, but it helps a lot and you probably should be studying it. Let me know in the comments what you think. What's your attitude to studying grammar? Do you study it enough? Do you study it too much? Don't obsess with studying grammar, by the way. That's important. Remember the objective. And I'll see you very soon for another video.